they all come.
Here they all
Hello, greetings. Man, the numbers are going up quite quick. Cool.
Wow,
Glad
yes.
you could join us here today, everyone. Welcome to the GESARA show. I'm Billy Gilles alongside of Peter Walker.
And I'm Peter Walker alongside of Billy Gilles.
That's right. We flubbed up on Thursday, didn't we?
Well, yes. We should have thought of it in Q&A, huh?
Right, exactly. We didn't realize it was our 17th show, and we didn't do an entire Q special
Yes.
for our 17th show. So,
well, it was in the queue, but we just didn't get to it.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, extra points, 1,000 points to anybody who can name me the 2 movies that Desmond Llewellyn was not in before his death. Okay, there were 2 that he was not in that were official James Bond movies that he was not in. Can you name the 2? 1,000 experience points for somebody who can chime in real quick.
Live and Let Die. And The Man with the Golden Gun. How are those 2?
No, he was in The Man with the Golden Gun.
So the first one I got right, yeah?
Yeah, Live and Let Die was one of them, yes.
And there was this special one which Sean Connery was on.
Well, yeah, but it was actually the first one, Dr. No.
Dr. No. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Because the armorer came in and gave James Bond his Walter PPK at that point, and It was not Desmond Llewellyn. But every other movie up until his untimely death after The World Is Not Enough, that was Desmond Llewellyn. And
then John Cleese took over, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then John Cleese was introduced in Twine, The World Is Not Enough, as R.
Yeah.
The follow-up to Q. That is correct.
That's right.
Yeah,
yes.
Excluding the Daniel Craig ones. Yeah, because I'm talking about up until Desmond Llewellyn passed away, he was in every James Bond movie but 2 official James Bond movies. Now we're not talking about the original Casino Royale that had David Niven playing James Bond, and also Never Say Never Again, which was also not an official Bond film. All right, even though it had the James Bond character in it, played by Sean Connery.
Right.
We're talking the Albert Broccoli, the Broccoli family produced films.
Okay? Right. So. Okay. So I thought, well, I suppose, is this a follow-up to our 007 episode? And now we're...
Oh, quit, done. You know, it's everybody wants the intel and everything else here. We're waiting for the numbers to come up. People join late. If we start the intel too early, then we have people jumping in and saying, what did I miss? And we have to go back and do the retro thing, okay, of the first 15 minutes of the show. So, Don, give it a rest, will you? All right.
Did Don complain about something?
Yeah. He's like, intel, not trivia. Okay, please. All right.
And the others are saying trivia, not intel.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So we try to vary it up just a little bit to break up the monotony, because this can get a little monotonous over time. All right. But anyway, I digress.
And I've just remembered that my printed intel is in my bag. 1 second.
Right. And while we're stalling here, okay. Did everybody get to see 2,000 Mules? I did put it up in my Telegram channel, the free version. So that was an amazing piece of work by Dinesh D'Souza and his team to put all of that together, and did an excellent job. A lot of it I knew, but the level of technology that they used to prove the point was absolutely incredible.
I know, and so and I remember the joke that you need 2,000 mules for one jackass.
Right, exactly. But now we await the arrests, because now we have 2,000 arrests to make, because these people actually committed treason. So
That's right.
Oh, but what was the difference between the paid and free version of 2000 Mules? The fact that people paid money to go see it in theaters, select theaters around the United States, and the initial release of it over the weekend was a paid thing that Dinesh D'Souza did in order to try to recoup some of the money that he put into the whole thing. But other than that, there is no difference in between what I put out there and
I got the impression that it was the first of a series of films.
Yes, it is. It is the first of a series of films that's going to be released. They're all coming out this summer to a theater near you. Okay. And again, I did post it on my Telegram channel. If you'd like my Telegram channel, I'll post.
I think it was on mine as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's been all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the place where us truthers reside is where you will have found probably a load of links to 2000 Mules.
Right. Exactly.
And and I obviously did watch it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we found it quite interesting. Although, you know, there is so much evidence now out there. But of course, there are those people who say if it's not on your nightly TV news, then it can't be true.
Right.
Doesn't matter how compelling the evidence is. Huh?
Exactly. All right. I'm just getting into my stuff here.
Okay.
There
So
we go.
I have 12 past.
You have 12. Yep, I do have 12. It's 12 right now.
Oh, well, mine it says 1912. I'm ahead of you.
Well, yeah. Well, you're always ahead of me because you're in Germany and the time difference is 7 hours.
Right. That's right. So
you are technically you're always ahead of me. Okay,
that's right.
true.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
I'm 007 hours ahead.
Okay. Now, here's another interesting thing about Desmond Llewellyn. Okay. The fact that he played Q. Okay. He actually played Q in the movies 17 times. 17 different films.
17 different films. Okay.
17 different films as Q. So there's the Q references for the day. Thank you very much.
Well, yeah, and I just watched a TV series with Q.
Did you?
Yes, it was quite interesting. It was set in 2024.
And that's right. That's right. Are you talking about the Star Trek Q?
Star Trek Picard, yes.
Yeah, Star Trek Picard. Yep. I'm catching up on all of that. I'll have to
and
do that later this
there was
afternoon.
Also that other, what is it? What's the other new Strange New Worlds or something like that? The other new series with Pike.
Yep.
Now we didn't have a plot line, if I remember correctly, that the riots on the 6th of January led to the Third World War.
Right.
And I thought, well, you know, obviously they're trying to put some propaganda into that. How about all Biden was doing wrong, leading to world peace?
Oh yeah, well, but Biden is wrong on so many different levels. So we'll get into that here in just a moment.
Yeah, it's probably
part of the intel. It's part of the intel.
Okay. Now, I did tell some people that tonight could be a special, and so let me say what happened. Obviously, you know, there was a chance that I'd be doing an outside broadcast today, but as you can see, although I've got the Rhine and the cathedral behind me, I'm actually back in the studio. I was out, and I did meet with a group of people, and well, should we let the cat out of the bag? I was meeting with the Connecting Consciousness group,
right?
And we're basically starting to make connections with Connecting Consciousness as a new group to be working with. and I think that's an excellent move. And I was speaking to their coordinator in Germany for the area I'm living in, North Rhine-Westphalia, a nice lady called Martina. And they had their regular meeting today in Cologne. So I went and joined it and spent the afternoon speaking to the Connective Consciousness crowd. Very interesting and very different crowd. I mean, it became very obvious very quickly to them that I was the guy from the GESARA show. Now, none of them had seen the show, but some of them were following Charlie Ward. And so I was wondering, why hadn't you heard of us then?
You're right.
Well, it turned out they were watching the BitChute videos from Charlie and were not part of the Insider Club. That's why they didn't know. They said they don't want to spend money on. A lot of them were saying, well, actually, a lot of them were asking me what I thought of him and whether he was, legitimate or not. Well, I just said I think Charlie's trying to put out some good information, and left it at that. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, let's just leave it at that.
I just left it at that, really. And for us, we're moving on, and I think that the other group I met today, it seems to be an excellent place for us to be building ties with.
Sure.
And they were actually very open and liked the idea. And but there were about 35 people there.
Yep.
And I invited them. I started asking around who was interested in taking part in a live GESARA show. I had a room available at this restaurant where they met, and I cleared that with the restaurant that we could use the room. But you see, most of them were Germans, and they were concerned if their English was good enough, and they'd only met me for the first time this time, and I think it was just too early to do a show with that group.
Right.
And so I decided, I had about 3 people who were prepared to join me on the show, and I thought, one of them was an Australian lady. And the other one was a British guy. Both have been living in Germany for some time, and then one other person. And I just decided that it was too early to try and do a show with them. Let them get to know me better, and let's do that another day.
Well, I'm seeing that we have an awful lot of Connecting Consciousness members in the house, people from Southern California, Colorado, West Sussex, and Sweden. I am also a member here in Missouri, I'm glad we're all connecting. That's the main focus.
That's right.
People from Belgium, Switzerland, Nova Scotia, Connecticut. We got a whole bunch. Iowa, all right, Georgia, France, Joplin, Missouri, and Ontario, Wales, Seattle, Alberta, Canada, Brazil, over in the UK, of course, Yosemite National Park out in California.
That's right.
Great area. Love it. Okay.
And I'm also a member of Connecting Consciousness. My brother Ray is quite an active member of Connecting Consciousness in Orlando. You're in St. Louis, so the connections were already there. So I think it just makes sense for us to explore, putting our show more to be linked a little bit more with Connecting Consciousness, not officially linked, just that.
No, but it's nice that we have a lot of members. We have a lot of members here, and we can all communicate together and pass around information and whatnot. And the more we collectively think about things and do things together, the better off we're going to be. That's for sure.
That's right. And I loved the Lasit's Simon Parks video, where he talks about his projects for running a medbed center in Florida,
Mhm.
I thought that was an excellent project to get involved with. And
Well, and he's also uh, talked about, um, the funding for his projects, Mel K's projects, and Vandersteel's projects,
that's
things
right.
of that nature, all getting funded from these big bondholders and everything else that have already gotten their funds released. And we're just waiting for our funds to be released at this point
But
and being able to set up everything. No, I have not talked to Simon about making this an official CC thing, nor do Peter and I want to make this an official CC thing. We're just mentioning that there's a lot of people here from connecting consciousness, and we just want to recognize that. So we're just gonna do our own thing and whatnot. And
yes, but I mean, in discussions I had with the group today,
right.
and I was there for several hours talking to them. On a nice sunny day, we were actually outside, and a lot of people pointed out ways that we can collaborate.
Mhm.
And particularly because a big thing for them is also the the Zim redemptions and things like that.
Sure.
A lot of them were asking me questions about that,
Right.
and and they say there's a hunger amongst them to learn more about the redemption process, and a lot of them were then keen to start watching our show to find out what we were saying about it. A lot of them seem to be quoting Ron Giles,
Mm-hmm.
that they'd been getting that information from. There was this one lady, I won't give her a name, but pretty much after I arrived, she came and sat next to me and asked me if I was the guy with the internet show, and I said yes, and then she asked if I would look at her project, and I said,
Huh.
well, yeah, sure, I'll look at it. She had
Sure.
it, she had it with her, and I don't know, it's nothing we would have recommended. I mean, it was very much a spiritual definition of who she was. I
Sure.
mean, she was a registered nurse as a business,
Mm-hmm.
but none of what I would class as a business plan was in it. It was Herschel's handwritten, and it just basically described who she was and that she wanted to help people, and that she just wanted to get money so she could pass money on to others, but not really defining who those other people were.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, that's not a business plan. I tried to say that's at least how I would describe it, but she was saying, oh, that's what Ron Giles was kind of expecting. And I thought,
Okay.
well, that's not what I read from Ron Giles, but okay, maybe I missed something.
Yeah. Well, we can't be, have our eyes in everything, on everything, and listen to everyone all the time. And I agree with people that are putting in the chat here. There are some more people into more spirituality than others. I mean, I'm a very spiritual person. Peter, I believe you are a very spiritual person as well. But we don't, do the thumping of heads or anything like that, trying to get you to believe the way that we do or whatnot. We
No,
deal with more the practical issues of what's going on in this 3D reality and try to transpose that into a 5D reality, as best as we possibly can. But Peter, what do we got today?
well, I just see a question in the chat. Who is Ron Giles? Ron Giles runs his website, qfs2020.com, which is a website which explains a lot about the redemption process, and there's a lot of good information on that. I've read from there before, and what I could remember of that website was not what I was seeing in this file from this lady. So I found it interesting, very different. I mean, other people I spoke to were very much more grounded and had some excellent ideas and some excellent project ideas, and it was altogether a very interesting afternoon. My idea was, if I could get them to agree to this, is basically to have these people to come on this show and put their point of view over to you guys. I thought that would be a neat idea. It was just too much too soon. That's all I can say. It's not that people were generally against it. It's just there was no warning, and and we met up at 2 p.m. And so 7 p.m. was already 5 hours into the day, and by that time they were thinking of going home. And so I thought, yeah, okay, that's not a problem. I'll just go. So I just came back home and do the program from here. It didn't make any sense.
Right. But Lynn Marie is right. She just put it here in the chat, and the quantum system is going to be linked to spiritual side, and we need balance between the spiritual and practical side. You're absolutely so right on that. We need to be grounded in our ideas as well. That's right, so true. Yes. That is so true. Okay, but thank you, Lynn. Appreciate that. All right, Peter, let's get into the intel.
Okay, let's get on to the intel, and it's like things are kind of on. It's like being on the verge of things happening, but it's I think a lot of us have had the feeling, well, we've been on the verge for a long time. A lot of people say that, why are you quoting dates and things like that when so often these dates don't come to fruition? And yeah, I can understand that point of view, but at the end of the day, I'm not the one inventing the dates. I'm passing on information which I have learned from others, and I agree that a lot of those dates have not come out. But nearly every time, it then comes out there was some important reason why it didn't work. Like, for example, I think there's one item why the Iraqi dinar rates should have come out, but there was some lady who didn't do what she was told, and that has delayed the thing by a week. And
right.
There's two things which come out like that.
Well, at this point in time, where our due date is passed, our water has broken, and we're into a slow dilation, and we're about ready. We're in need of induced labor at this point. Okay, that's my feeling on the whole thing.
Right. Okay. So that our ship can come to birth.
I was going to mention, a couple of people have questions about a couple of things in the chat room here. The difference in between the RV and GESARA. Well, GESARA is more of a global, how should I put it, economic plan and peace plan that brings us all into one area of living life to its fullest, instead of being under the rule and the control of the Illuminati, the cabal, or whatever you want to call it. They are right now, the cabal is wanting to destroy us, basically take us down from the 7.5 billion people around the world down to just 500 million. All right. And most of those being people who were used to being in enslavement, and Chinese, under the rule of thumb, which would be mostly Chinese. And they'd still have to kill off 1 billion Chinese to get down to that number.
That's right.
500 million worldwide. GESARA stops all of the drug trafficking, all of the human trafficking, all of the nefarious activities of governments worldwide that have been doing things on behalf of their people, especially the United States, that have done more harm in the world than they have good. We sit there and we think about, here in the United States, we're always thinking of ourselves as the good guys. Well, would good guys go over to Afghanistan and set up a drug trafficking enterprise? That's exactly what we did in Afghanistan. That's exactly what we did in Iraq. That is exactly what we did in various different countries, including Vietnam. All right. And the Central Western bankers have made nothing but money off of it. That's who we are. That's who we are as the United States. We are nothing but the muscle behind these evil bankers that are just making money off of the backs of people and off of the lives of people. And we have been doing this forever and a day. And the RV is basically just the revaluation of currencies, setting an even playing field of currencies around the world. If you notice the exchange rates in between Britain and the United States, whereas the dollar goes for about $1.46 over in Britain to the pound. All right. And there are different exchange rates for different currencies around the world. Well, this sets everything back to 1 to 1. All right, where there is no difference in between the currencies. It's only the names have changed. Okay. And going back to the original currencies of each individual country, instead of having the euro over in Europe, each individual country would go back, for example, Germany, the mark, France, the franc, you know, and so on, so forth, so on. All right. But there is a difference in between the revaluation and GESARA or NESARA, depending on which way you look at it. Okay.
Yeah, well, GESARA covers a lot more than just the financial aspect. There are 20 rules in the GESARA Act, and the finance is not all, not the only aspect.
Right, exactly. There's a lot more to it as far as things are concerned.
So comparing those two is a bit like comparing apples with oranges.
Why can't Trump come back as soon as Biden is gone? Well, there is a reason for that. How would the optics look if all of a sudden Trump is reinstalled as president?
Well, it's not possible anyway.
It's not possible under the law. Under the law, it's not possible. You have to, whenever a dysfunctional government is figured out and the Biden administration and everybody in it is caught up in treason, and the elections are overturned, you can't just install the person who was legally elected. You have to have new elections by law, by the book.
120 days, isn't it? Which they
right,
have.
but and under military law, which we are going into, the military would have 120 days to set up new elections. And I think this is all going to coincide with the midterms and whatnot. And the reason why Trump is doing all of these rallies and that is so that he stays in the forefront, out in front of anybody, because anybody can run for president. There will be other people who run for president. Okay. But it keeps him out in the forefront and everything. And that's why he's doing those rallies.
Okay. Right. Okay, great. Just briefly to the Birmingham recording. I know someone said I've already talked about that, but the problem with the main problem holding me up is that the audio sync is all mixed up, because I'm having to use the audio from the backups in the microphones.
Right.
And that's a very slow process, because virtually every time you change the person speaking, I have to realign the audio, and that's just making it a laborious process. But I'm over halfway through, and so I'm going to try and get that out as quickly as I can. And I'm trying, and I will be pushing this recording out much faster, just not as heavily edited as it usually is, just to get them out. Okay, enough on that. There was another thing. I've been offered an NDA.
Really?
Yes, I've been
an
NDA. An NDA. Yeah.
You can't talk to us anymore.
Well, yes. Well, yeah. I'm supposed to sign it next week. But let me just point out, it's nothing to worry about, because the NDA has nothing to do with NESARA, GESARA, or QFS.
No.
It's
what kind of an NDA are you having to sign?
Well, it's quite mundane, actually. It's about a piece of technical kit I'm using, actually a webcam, and there's a camera system which I'm using, and I talked about with the company. I was asking them questions about their webcam mode and stuff like that, and they came back and said, look, we're designing a new webcam, and would you like to test it and provide feedback?
You can't say any more.
I didn't say the company.
You can't say any more than that. No.
And I haven't signed it yet.
You haven't signed it yet.
I haven't signed it yet. So So I'm not going to name the company. I'm just going to say that the NDA is basically so that I can be given advance access to a piece of equipment, and then I send in a report.
Oh, okay. All right.
So,
okay.
but I just thought it was neat to say I've got an NDA to sign.
Exactly. All right. So what do we got today?
So nothing to worry about. I'll still be able to report on the news, no problem.
All right, let's get into it.
Okay, right. Yes, I know we've had a lot of false starts, and there's one more thing I'm going to say, but I'm going to say that later. So this is the latest news, just printed out, hot off the press, as they say. There's a gold-backed Chinese yuan has now replaced the fiat US dollar as the world's reserve currency. Let me take these off.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means the end of the petrodollar, the end of the dollar as the number one currency worldwide, and I think that's a good thing. It's actually a good thing for us. The global currency reset was activated. Here we have another date of Thursday, the 11th of May. Well, I think things in the past where things actually happened. I think
things
those
actually
dates are
happen
okay.
on those dates, right?
You know, when it's not predicting something which might happen, we're talking about something which has happened, and we're just reporting on it. So I think those kind of dates are fine. All banks across the globe were now compliant with the worldwide currency change, and Iraq has been told they could go anytime they wanted. So it sounds like it's Iraq, which is the last in line.
Right. And this report that came out here in the United States, that Janet Yellen held things up and whatnot, that's totally false. Janet Yellen doesn't have anything to do with what's going on in the GESARA or the RV or anything else. She's Janet Yellen isn't even Janet Yellen at this point. All right. So
well,
just
okay.
ignore
She
that.
is
It's
mentioned here on the
disinformation.
report a little earlier, further down.
Yep.
I'll get to that in a sec. Fox News has joined other fake news when it refused to air the 2020 elections fraud documentary 2000 Mules. I didn't know they'd been offered it. I suppose it would make sense to broadcast it, but that would put it wide open. Hunter Biden emails have confirmed that his father, Joe Biden, not only knew of weaponized beer lamps being built and utilized in UK rain. We should say UK rains, shouldn't we? Just to avoid them. But had ensured that the US funded such labs. The largest bank in Europe, Deutsche Bank, has, I always find interesting when people who don't speak German call it Deutsche Bank or something like that. But obviously I speak German, and it's called Deutsche Bank, because that's the correct pronunciation of that bank. That has forecast a recession in the US. They've also been in trouble recently with various investigations and stuff like that. I no longer have a bank account with them, but I did used to. This week, Canada reported that jab-19 case hospitalization death rates were now the highest among those triple jabbed. I'm having to be a little bit careful what I say on that topic, because you know, we started putting our videos out on YouTube, and YouTube already took down our May the 1st episode, and it was because of a report on the jab, so to speak. So I had, in order to be able to re-release it there, I had to remove about 5 minutes of the news to avoid that issue. And so I think I'm going to be a little bit more careful when it comes to that topic, to just use alternative words, not censor, just use different words. I think that's a way to get around that. You know, words which you can understand what we're talking about. A recent study found that face masks leads to breathing dangerous levels of carbon dioxide, even when sitting still. Yeah, I think this is probably something a lot of us know about. Michigan voting machine raid investigation and Arizona election fraud investigation were a direct response to the release of 2000 Mules election fraud documentary. So obviously the film is having its effects.
Oh yeah, it is. And that's why the case is still pending before the Supreme Court. It was never dismissed. The case that was brought by Mike Lindell, it was never dismissed. All right. It is still under pending litigation and also pending hearings. And this just adds more fuel to the fire. That's what leads me to believe that this whole thing about Roe v. Wade getting leaked out and whatnot is more or less a cover story to the real thing that they're actually working on in order to beef up security before it actually comes out, which is
so
the 2020
the International
election fraud.
Common Law Court of Justice in Brussels has found Pope Francis, these Italian names, I'm not too sure how to say it, Mario Bergoglio guilty of committing crimes against humanity, colluding in homicide, child trafficking, medical genocide, criminal conspiracy in the obstruction of justice, plus trying to conceal his crimes. Pope Francis has been sentenced to life imprisonment without parole and has lost his office and assets. A warrant has been issued for his arrest. It's interesting because today at the meeting in Cologne with the CC people, we were talking about common law quite a bit. And in fact, one of the guys there was actually asking me about it because he said, he'd used that in a legal case and gave all the legal arguments, and he said it was just all his arguments were just ignored. And he said, well, what can he do when they just ignore him? And he said, where do I go? Which court do I go? And I said, well, there is the International Common Law of Court of Justice in Brussels, and they can put through, and ignoring your rights. And I can hear Ron West saying, listening carefully to what I'm saying, because Ron West told me that ignoring your rights, he's laughing, that's good. Ignoring your rights is, what was the word? Now I've forgotten the word, but it was quite a serious crime. And that can be used to kind of tell them that they had better respect your rights. I'm sure Ron will tell me again what the word I've forgotten is. And okay, yeah. By the way, I met Ron West while we were in, I was in Birmingham, and in fact I shared a breakfast with him. And it was a fascinating discussion. I really enjoyed that. So, I learned a lot from Ron, and has an interesting life behind him. And it's a pleasure to have him here on the show.
Yes, definitely.
So let's move on. This is a reminder no one, and I mean no one, knows the exact time and date that the codes will be entered for notification of Tier 4B, us, the internet group, to set redemption exchange appointments. That would be decided from calculations by the military quantum computer and based upon concerns of safety of the people. So, yes, this is right. Anybody who says it's things coming on a certain date, it's a guess. It's a guess. The computer's going to decide when it's happening, and until we actually get the 800 numbers or the websites where we can register or whatever,
it's all speculation.
When that happens is a guess.
Yeah, it's all speculation.
So on Thursday, 11th of May, Hugh and Trump announced on Telegram the global currency reset has been fully activated. Now, I haven't had time to look that up. Did you actually find that, Billy?
No, I did not.
Because I remember reading someone saying in the chat that, oh, he didn't say that, or that wasn't said. So, and I haven't had a chance to look it up if whether that is actually true.
No,
So I'm putting a question mark on that particular item.
right.
Not, I mean, it could be true. I just haven't had a chance to check it. So here's that Janet Yellen report saying Janet Yellen did not release the main Iraqi bank from sanctions as ordered, which dragged out the GESARA process and made it too late to go this week, according to Bruce. So it's Bruce who's telling us that Janet Yellen caused the delay in the Iraqi dinar. But you said that's not the case.
That is not the case.
Mr. C
No.
say that.
Yeah, that is not the case at all. That is misinformation.
That's right. Yeah, I remember Mark Z and Mr. C were also saying that report was BS.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's very important that we always try when we can to double check the things we're reporting on. In other words, having at least two different sources, because you do sometimes get one person claiming something which are just not confirmed.
Well, here's the thing, ever since this 24-hour news cycle has come out, everybody's trying to scoop everybody else and be the first to report whatever it is that there is out there to report. All right. And a lot of it is misinformation on the first report or on the anticipation of something. And they're speculating what may have actually happened instead of actually giving you details of what actually happened. So, anytime you hear somebody, it has to come from about 5 or 6 different sources before it actually becomes truth. All right. And even then you have to question it depending on how fast the information is coming out. So go ahead.
Right.
Peter.
Okay. So the new operational rates would be published for 28 countries, and it's saying those rates are due to be released today, the 15th. Again, because I was out all day at the CC meeting, I haven't had a chance to check if any rates have been released. Have you seen anything?
No, nothing has been released as yet. I've been checking all of the standard intel channels, and nothing has been confirmed as yet as far as rates are concerned.
Yeah, but I say, the day is not over, and maybe it will happen later today. You normally, when I see that, I wait until the day afterwards and then check, because
right.
you can always miss something and then hear about it the next day. So here it says by Monday, 16th of May, all currencies will be trading on the new QFS. Well, we will see what happens.
We will see what happens. Now, I did notice that, over the last week, we have had a severe drop in stock market here in the United States. Also, Bitcoin has been crashing hard. So is Ethereum. So again, it's all starting to happen slowly but surely. But eventually, you'll just see it all come falling down in one big felt swoop.
So the Department of Defense has mandated that all banks across the globe would fully integrate the global currency reset funds, release security codes by Thursday. Well, that's a date which has already happened, 12th of May. I don't know if it happened or not. But it carries on. But it did not happen. Now that the problem has been resolved, which was Janet again, GCR funds release would likely happen early next week, perhaps on Monday. Well, we'll believe that when it happens. I've been thinking about this. When are these things likely to most happen? And then I remembered there's a date coming up, which would make which would be great to say now we're there. And that's the 4th of July.
Well, yeah, that would be, a good date, but also today is a nice date too. The 15th of May, being the lunar eclipse tonight, which is the flower moon lunar eclipse, which will happen tonight about 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I'll have it will be an exciting blood moon. because it's not the standard lunar eclipse. This is when the moon is actually at its apex, at its largest in the horizon, in the east horizon, whenever this happens. I mean, it will be a spectacular looking thing.
Oh, look out. I'll
Really,
see if I
really
can see it
huge.
from where I am.
Really, really huge. You probably won't be able to see it in the Eastern Hemisphere where you are, but here in the United States, it'll be a spectacular look. Okay.
I'll check it out. Sometimes you can see these things on the internet live. I
Yep.
mean, I've seen a number of eclipses. I remember one day there was a full eclipse in Germany, and it was like in southern Germany. And I remember driving down there just to see the eclipse, and I was most disappointed. I got there and it was pouring with rain, and although it got dark, you couldn't see through the heavy clouds, and so I'd driven all that way for nothing.
Whenever the last solar eclipse happened, the full solar eclipse back in 2017, it actually passed right over my sister's house where I was staying at the time.
Right.
I mean, we had the direct full effect of it right here in Cedar Hill, Missouri. It was actually spectacular.
Here's an interesting thing. Obama will go after Musk. The deep state is publicly activating Obama and have been getting ready for Musk. Many countries were getting ready for a full tyrannical control over the internet and laws pertaining to internet misinformation. The EU, China, Solomon Islands, Australia, and a whole string of countries. So I'm not quite sure what they're saying there, that maybe Obama will be attacking Musk. I think I would need to know more about that report.
Well, right now, what's happening is that they're doing full discovery on Twitter at this point.
Yeah.
You know, and finding out all the fraud that they have been perpetuating about the inflated numbers, the advertising algorithms, and things of that nature. And that's what's exposing Twitter at this point. And it's really quite interesting to watch.
Yes, I heard that Musk was holding things back to check out how many bots were actually in place, because that was inflating the value of Twitter. And he was doing due diligence by saying how many bots, you know, how many real members and how many bots. And they were found that there were way more bots than the 5% which Twitter claimed.
Yeah, exactly.
Which has caused the value of Twitter to drop in price. So it's clever to do that because that lowers how much money he has to pay.
The deal is not finalized by any stretch of the imagination. Probably won't be until November. But right now is the discovery stage in finding out exactly how much Twitter is actually worth. And with all the stuff they're finding out, he may not buy it at all. This is just exposing them for who they really are.
Yes. And I presume he's doing the similar thing with Instagram as well, who he also bought.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And then there's Facebook. I don't know. Is he buying Facebook?
Well, he joked about that, you know.
He joked about it. Yeah.
He joked about that. Yeah.
Just buy the whole lot and check them out.
Right. I mean, right now, whoever's playing Elon Musk is doing a wonderful job at playing the role pretty well. I don't think it's actually Elon anymore, but yeah.
You don't think it's the real Elon Musk?
No, I don't. I honestly don't, because he was playing the black hat role for so long, and then all of a sudden he's turned into this gray hat. Now people are thinking he's a white hat. I'm thinking that somebody else is playing.
Yeah, but I heard that he basically turned after he was invited to the White House by Trump and had a long discussion with Trump, and that Trump basically persuaded him to switch sides and take on the white hat role.
Well, that, you know, and that could be, I don't know, but I see certain things about Elon that just tell me it's not Elon anymore.
Well, we will see. I personally hope it is Elon. I mean, I like to think that he's on our side. He's one of the good guys.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. What else we got?
So let me see. Just trying to read what would actually make sense to read, because the yellow dragon bonds have gone, and there were historic yellow dragon bonds selling on eBay that weren't worth the paper they were printed on.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is done. All banks are compliant. Iraq has been told that, yeah, we've actually had that. Bitcoin lost a lot of money this week.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had a discussion with someone about Bitcoin today. In fact, it's actually a friend of mine who's quite an expert, and he was pointing out how Bitcoin is now gone up in value and things like that, whereas I was saying, get out of Bitcoin, it's going to go to zero, and he was not really believing it. And I basically said, look, I've told you, I've warned you, look into it. If I'm wrong, well, then you've lost nothing. But if I'm right, then it's worth at least looking into yourself and double checking.
Well, it's not gold backed.
That's right. That's what I said. It's not gold backed.
It's totally air backed. It's not even backed by oil. There's nothing that's backing it up or propping it up. It's like, all right, I bought a pet rock back in the 70s. All right. And I can put it into attack mode anytime I want to. And it's a perceived value of whoever wants to buy this pet rock that I purchased for $19.99 back in 1978. And, what kind of a value are you going to put on it? And everybody's like, well, it's worth X. And you had a whole bunch of people that started buying it up and driving up the cost of it when they really didn't know that it wasn't worth anything. It really isn't. It's just a perceived value. There isn't anything backing it up. Kind of like our fiat dollar.
And when I heard that it was set up by Soros, I think that's an extra reason to avoid using it.
Yeah, exactly. They use it.
There's a lot of nefarious money in Bitcoin, and I think it's
used for money laundering mostly.
Yeah.
It's a cabal money laundering scheme, and so is Ethereum.
So for me, that would be a reason enough to not buy Bitcoin. I mean, I never have bought Bitcoin, so
right.
I'm not personally affected, but friends of mine have, and I've just been warning them, say, look, it's going to go to zero,
well, the thing about it is there's a bunch of people out there who will go ahead and buy into whatever is the latest and greatest thing, okay, without checking it all out, just because it's new. All right. And then you find out later that there's all kinds of problems with it because it's new and the technology hasn't been vetted as yet. And they just go on a whim because it's new. It's something new and exciting. And then you find out later that it has all kinds of problems that come along with it. So that's why I'm always like, if you want to buy the latest and greatest technology, that's fine. But I'm going to stay 6 months to a year behind it because I want to know if it's vetted out or not first. Right. I want to know how many people, have actually tested this and who are the people testing it, and are they making a buck off it by testing it and not actually reporting accurately on it.
Right. Okay. Let's move on. Well, here they're saying that Bitcoin lost a lot of money like this past week. The stock market and Bitcoin were going to crash. Anything that is not asset backs would be worthless. But but these people I was talking to were on Facebook, I believe, and they wouldn't believe my subtle hints that maybe something like XLM would be a better idea.
Right. Yeah.
But and also even here in Europe,
there's some,
we have this thing called the Eurovision Song Contest.
Yeah.
I don't know if you see that in the USA, but it is certainly the world's largest song contest. And I was kind of browbeaten into actually watching some of it. And And as usual, most of the songs were rubbish. You know, I can remember years like, I think 2010, where they actually had some really nice songs. But generally, a lot of these songs, for those who don't know the European Vision Song Contest, it's a yearly event where every country in Europe, plus Australia, strangely enough, write a song and prepare a song specially for this competition. And then they send their artists then to the show wherever it is. It is always put on by the country which won the last one. So this year it was in Italy, in Turin, in Italy. And you know, it's visually quite well made. You know, they have this massive stage, and it's a very big show. And every country involved can vote and things like that. And they have two sets of votes: the jury votes and the public's vote for the things. And the UK, who's been losing in the past few years, last year we got 0 points, were actually leading at the end of the jury votes. And Ukraine was actually rated low. Everybody said, oh, Ukraine's going to win this for political reasons. And so after jury votes, they were not winning. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And then these so-called public votes, where everybody is invited to vote for their favorite country. Who won in the end? Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even like the song. I mean, if the song had been good and it was catchy and nice,
that was manipulated.
Yeah, you know,
that was manipulated.
I mean, the British entry actually was pretty good. I thought Lithuania did quite a nice song as well, and Spain, which was like third place, also did a pretty nice tune. Bulgaria, I thought, had actually quite a very catchy tune. I was surprised they didn't do better. But the Ukraine one, I tried to see if there was any real value in the song, that they won because of the song. But I said I couldn't find it. I certainly could not explain why they won when there were a lot of other tunes which, in my opinion,
you mean
were much nicer.
Kind of like the 2020 election here in the United States and this year's France election where Macron won again, you know, kind of like those.
Yeah, the thing is, you can't really check, you know. I mean, they say it's all legitimate and all properly counted. How do you know yet?
I call but anyway.
So but you know, so those are a few hours I'd like to have back, please, from my life.
Mm-hmm. What else we got today?
And so let's just see what's left. There's not much left on the news. As regard the global food, fuel, and goods shortages, the storm clouds over the global economy have darkened dramatically. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has led to fundamental questions about Europe's dependence on Russian energy and the continent's geopolitical stability. It has also significantly pushed up commodity prices, exacerbating above target inflation and creating a serious risk, with long-term expectations becoming unanchored. So yeah, there are some more things on the yeah, I think we've actually read that page, so we'll get that. India has banned wheat exports because we're expecting a worldwide wheat shortage. Now, interestingly, I also heard that Russia, of all countries, has had a record crop of wheat. So they have more wheat than usual. And
but Russia's bad, so
they have a lot of land to grow food.
Yeah, Russia's bad, so we can't buy anything from Russia.
Well, maybe after GESARA we can.
Well, yeah, I know that, but like, you know, like anything else, if it's deemed bad by the mainstream media, you can't buy it. So,
well, I would rather buy Russian wheat than watch mainstream media, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I agree.
And the nice thing is, it's organic. It's non-GMO. All GMO foods have been banned in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
as in Europe as well. And you can't get GMO foods in Germany or in Europe either.
Right. You have to have rubles in order to purchase the Russian wheat.
Well, we will see. Maybe we'll all have new gold-backed currency, which is exchangeable.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Russia has cut off its electricity to Finland. Now, Finland and I think Sweden were offered to join the NATO in a very fast speed. So I think it's not a bad idea that they are going to experience power reductions because they can no longer get electricity from over the border from Russia.
So what is the current power thing over in Germany? Because you guys were supposed to be cut off. Are you guys, getting squeezed pretty hard now?
In Germany, the problem is a lot of electricity is powered by gas.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have gas turbines, and gas comes from Russia traditionally.
Right.
And the reserve, the underground reserves are empty, and Russian gas has been cut off by Ukraine to Europe,
mm-hmm.
and Russia then switched off another pipeline to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So Germany's only getting about 25% of the gas it would normally get from Russia.
Which is putting a squeeze on you.
That's right. So the German politicians are crazy in what they're doing. In saying,
so are we. I mean, we're sitting here and they're shutting down more drilling lands that are up in Alaska. All right. When we have an energy crisis here in the United States, but they keep shutting down the oil reserves or the pumping stations out in the Gulf of Mexico, up in Alaska, and up in the northern territories, like in Montana and North Dakota. And they're shutting down the leases for these oil companies to actually pump anything. And it's like, why are you doing that when we're asking Saudi Arabia and other countries to pump more oil? Doesn't make any sense whatsoever, does it? No,
yes.
No, but that's their solution.
Well, it's even worse in Germany because they have this exterior minister, Annalisa Baerbock, in Germany, who's a rather young lady from the Green Party, who's the only reason apparently she got the job is because her English was reasonably good. And although I would definitely say reasonably, and her English is far from perfect.
That's like our minister of disinformation over here in the United States. She got the job because she put together a cute, funny TikTok video.
Yeah. Anyway, so this experiment has openly declared that Germany will never buy gas and oil from Russia again, which is a crazy thing to say because Germany is heavily dependent on imported gas from Russia, and there are no other sources which are viable. I mean, you can get some gas from America, but then you need special refineries to turn the liquefied gas into usable gas, and Germany doesn't have these refineries.
Right, and if
they have to build them,
if they keep going down the path they're going with training personnel and sending money and everything else to arm Ukraine. So how good is your Russian right now, Peter?
Das Vidanya.
That's about it.
Well, let me let you into a little secret. In my sordid past, I did have a Russian girlfriend.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so I did learn a bit of Russian back then. And she was a lovely lady, absolutely lovely. The only reason I stopped, and this was happening I think the year 2000. This happened. I was with her in the year 2000, so it's 22 years ago. It's a long time ago. And the only reason we stopped because I she was a great lady, obviously, was because her job moved her back to Moscow.
Oh, well, that's
and
a shame.
I had the choice: either move to Russia or move on.
Yeah, I tried dating. I
I
tried
just
dating a
couldn't get to
Russian.
grips with the Russian language or even the alphabet, and I said that I'm not moving to Russia.
Yeah, I tried dating a Russian once, but then I lost the catalog, so that kind of went out the wayside.
Well, you're trying to get a Russian lady from a catalog,
Yeah, I tried. Yeah. Never mind. Okay,
right? Okay, and they
move
just
on.
sent
What
the
else we got?
catalog, not the lady.
Right, exactly.
Okay, but I must admit, I mean, I've met a few Russians in my life, and I've always had very good impressions of them. I've always got on well with them, and they're people like us, and
Oh yeah, they
very
are.
intelligent, very clever, and it makes me all the more question why they're so constantly being vilified.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the big question is the WHO and the fact that our governments are trying to give our sovereignty over to the WHO,
That's
the World
right.
The World Health Organization. This is something also that needs to be addressed. We need to do our due diligence and send all of our correspondence and phone calls and everything else to our senators, representatives, and things of that nature, saying no, that we are against this. All right. But
Yeah,
just
because it's
keep
imminent. I think isn't it May the 26th that they want to do that?
Exactly. Starts
In
on the
Davos?
22nd. Yeah, it starts on the 22nd and ends in the 26th. But
So it's
this
pretty imminent.
is a wake-up call, people. Don't think that this isn't something you need to pay attention to, because it is. Just like everything else, it is something to pay attention to. It is something for you to get involved in. Even though I think it's a total farce that they're trying to do this, all right, I think it's a good idea for you to pay attention to it and do your due diligence and make it not happen by letting your representatives and everybody else know that you are against this as a sovereign entity. All right. And don't give up your sovereign entity power to a World Health Organization that would control every aspect of your health. Period.
That's right. I mean, if that happens, it's pretty much game over for our sovereignty in future.
Exactly.
Except Ron West wants to say something.
Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Really, can I just come in just for a minute? It's one of the things I want to cover in the constitutional common law. A lot of people are confusing common law with constitutional common law. And where we're going into, and GESARA gets a lot closer than you think, actually, because funny enough, there are 20 unalienable rights. And many of them are done in a slightly different way in GESARA acts.
Sure.
Right.
So what I'm coming to do is to say that one of the things certainly in England, and this is where we're going now, because England actually had the first Magna Carta, the Great Charter of Liberty.
Sure.
And that's been going on for 800 years. And the fact that it was invoked in 2001, before anything was going on with 9/11, the fact it was done then, we knew about it in England, because it was broadcast in the then media, and there's an article in the Daily Telegraph that's still in the archives now.
Right.
So what I'm going to stress now is under the Article 61 of the Magna Carta, there is a slight rule, and I'll read it out to you, because it says, if you actually know about the Article 61, once you know about the Article 61, it says you not only have a duty to take the oath and collect the evidence, but you also have a duty to inform others. Now, I bring this back to you because what happens in all these shows I take part in, they always say it's going to end when you end it, and that's quite true, because we, the people, end up in charge. Because we, the people, started off with it. And what this is saying is you have it all under the Magna Carta, Article 61, because Article 61 is the treason article. And if you look at the caution that comes with that, once you have done your oath, you are in a different law, the highest law in the land. Now
Mhm.
we live on the land.
Right.
And right now we're being ruled by the contract law of the sea.
Right.
Yes.
So the difference is that you can actually peacefully solve this today. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
By-
you can.
by moving across. And the biggest challenge I have when I'm teaching common law, constitutional common law, is to get people to get off their backsides and actually do it.
Mm.
But
Right.
when they
And
actually do it,
there is the problem, Ron,
Yeah.
is that we have too many people sitting on their backsides,
Yeah.
not doing their due diligence, not
Don't wait for
educating
something to
them. Yeah, not educating themselves and waiting for somebody else to do something about it. And
Yeah.
it's like, if not you, who? If not now, when? All right. Because we each have a responsibility and a duty to stand up not only for our rights, but for others' rights as well.
What you're saying is that on the next bit, which I haven't read yet, because it says, when we restore the rule of law, we will be asked to submit our evidence under Article 61
Mhm.
to the jury. Those who did not take the oath and collect evidence will have to explain why to the jury, as they did not do their duties under the security clause.
Right.
It will then be up to the jury to decide what, if any, punishment the individuals will face. This is how powerful Article 61 is.
Mm.
It's there to actually, it's a security, it gives you the authority over the people who are producing this tyranny in peace and harmony.
Okay, now let me ask you the question which was asked of me today at the CC meeting in Cologne.
Yep.
This guy had gone to the courts, quoting all the common law things, and he was totally ignored.
Yeah.
And his question was, what does he do then?
I can tell you straight away, he made one mistake. He went to court. If you go to their court, you're in their jurisdiction. That's the biggest trick out.
Yeah. Yes, but he went there and very clearly stated, I'm here under common law and all that. They
don't hear you in the court under the rules of the sea. You are a corporation. A corporation, if you translate the word corporation, is corpse for dead.
Yeah.
Oration to speak. Well, a dead speak is a document because it doesn't say anything, but it's actually there. But if you go into court, they don't hear you because you've got to state your lawful rights. And it starts off with a statement that you make. I am a man, stroke woman, and I stand under common or universal law. I am exercising my inalienable rights. I am causing no harm, injury, or loss to others, and I have the right to record for legal and training purposes. And you get the question, well, the things that you're allowed to ask them. And the one I love best of all this is, am I lawfully obliged to answer the question? And the answer is no, because you've established your authority. And then you can actually turn to whoever it is asking you, and you can say, thank you very much for your time. You are dismissed.
Mm. So that's what you say to the judge, or?
No, you don't say to a judge. You never go to a judge.
Right.
A judge sits on the bench.
Yes.
The word for bench in a foreign language is actually a bank.
Mm.
Well, this is where we get back to their laws of the sea, where they start to take you away from your reality and lose you at sea. Because it's all done because you're a vessel in the law of the sea. You're in a vessel. But
yes.
You can't be in a vessel when you're on the land.
Right.
So you have the authority anyway, and they've been tricking you for donkey's years. Now, the other thing is, I want to say that we were affected in the UK, in England, Great Britain, whatever you like to call it, for over 250 years by the Rothschilds. And what happened in the UK is worse than you made in America, because you didn't start this until the Federal Reserve came in 1913. And that was really the rot that they got in, because that's when you lost a lot of your, in America, you lost a lot of your talents that came in, especially with somebody called Nikola Tesla. And he was suppressed, and a lot of his inventions now we're going to see, because one of the things in GESARA is it's going to be releasing 6,000 different technologies that we've never seen before, but they've been used all that time. So ours started with, believe it or not, George the Fourth, who was on the throne when the Battle of Waterloo happened, and that bankrupted the monarchy. And the guy that came along to refinance the monarchy was one Rothschild, and he took birthing rights for the monarchy from there on. And you'll find, if you look in the history, and that's what I study, the history of everything, is you'll find that everything from Queen Victoria onwards has been a farce. So they are not kings of England at all. In fact, they're more like kings of Germany, or a family in Germany, in Hanover it is, because George the Fifth, I think it was, of Hanover, was the blind king that Victoria married and had a son by before she even got onto the throne of England.
Right, exactly. The current royal family is a farce. They totally are. They're not of the royal bloodline at all.
Yeah, but Billy, you just connected the banking. The banking is done one-to-one because of the City of London, which is owned by the royals.
Right.
And the City of London was the standard originally of the one. So everything's compared to the pound. Now, today, the City of London was the corporation was disbanded on November the 24th, I think it was, last year.
Right.
And from there on, there is no cabal. It's all in the ULU, because we know that the three pillars were taken down quite some time ago. So all that we're looking at is the fear mongering again. And yes, you're right, Trump cannot come back and take it, because he would be acting like the White Knight or the knight in shining armor. And he
right.
was,
and most people wouldn't accept it. Most people wouldn't accept it anyway,
yeah,
because it would be going against the how should I put it, what is perceived as the will of the people. But if
because the will of the people was underneath the corporation.
Right.
And in order
exactly.
to have another president, he would be president of the republic. And
right.
That's the difference, because there is no president of the republic, because President Trump never conceded when he was 45.
That is correct.
Yeah.
The corporation doesn't exist, so you're absolutely right, he's not president. But one thing he is the commander-in-chief elected by the military, the top people in the military. He's the commander-in-chief, and he was made that I think it was March last year.
You see, and that's where people get confused, is that the president of the United States is not automatically the commander-in-chief of the military. Okay. They think that because he is elected president, he's automatically that. That is not the case. Okay. It's kind of like, the misconception of being Speaker of the House. You have to be a member of Congress in order to be the Speaker of the House. No, you do not. The House can nominate and elect anyone they want to be Speaker of the House, whether they are a member of Congress or not.
Absolutely, but this is getting away from where we all stand, because Magna Carta is our constitution, but it's only part of yours, because you have amendments on the constitution.
That is correct.
To you by it was a template to make up your constitution of 1776, correct. Which is really all that Trump can go back to.
Right. We have two different of the UK. We have 4 different things. We have the Declaration of Independence, we have the Constitution, we have the amendments to the Constitution, and then we have the Bill of Rights. There are actually 4 separate documents that define what the United States really is all about.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is the English one came before that, because it became the template on everything.
Right.
And exactly. The English one actually took it from the Bible of the unalienable rights, which I think, believe it, are in Genesis, but I'm not sure, I've not looked yet. But we have these, and when I start doing my teaching on common law, constitutional common law, I give out for everybody in the audience, we'll have an unalienable right list. and there's 20 of them. And it starts off with the first one, which is your freedom, basically. So we have that now, is the way I see it, because there is no law of the sea running us anymore. It's defunct. It's been destroyed, basically. But the people are just hanging on there, and all the time we, the people, let them do it, they're going to get away with it, aren't they?
Yes. Yes.
So stand up to these people in peace and state who you are, and then you take the authority. I mean, the biggest thing that fails in the UK is the fact that people fear the police. Yeah, if you take their job down, they're actually public servants. So all you have to do is say, excuse me, who are you? You're a public servant, and I'm the public, and we paid you in the first place. So really, if you stand up for your unalienable rights, which is really what we're talking about, and by doing that, the oath of allegiance, all you're doing is reaffirming your oath. You're not taking it new again. You're reaffirming that you believe in the constitution of the country. And because that has that clause, Article 61, which, by the way, you can't use until you've done the oath. And you can do that in every Commonwealth country, because they all use the Magna Carta as their basis of the constitution.
Right,
Well,
which begs the question for me. I'm living in Germany, but as a British person or human being, let me put it that way, would that apply to me or not?
Absolutely, 100%, because it's not about the people in different countries. It started in England, as you say, but it was the land. This is the law of the land, not the law of the sea. And if you look at the word law, it's made up of land, air, and water. Yes, that's right. Air is actually the highest law because we all need air to live, basically. But you can't overrule the law of the air because it's how we keep alive. But the law of the land is really the territory called land. And the only place that the law of the sea will work in reality is some place that's been built on the sea. And I only know of one place, and that's Venice.
Yeah. That's true. All right, but Ron, thank you very much for all that. We're going to do a special with Ron doing the entire common law thing coming up real soon. We'll discuss a date on that and everything else. But right now we want to get to a few more questions. But thank you, Ron, for all of that.
Can I stay on and help you if you need me to?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah,
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
All right.
In fact, in the Birmingham special, we had quite a long section on common law as well. Derek reported about having a success with a legal case which he was involved in, and I hope to get that video out soon. I'm halfway through, and I think a day or two more, and I should be able to release it. And that's a very, very interesting talk, particularly from Derek, about common law and his success in a legal case. Is he here? I don't know. Derek is in the UK.
Yeah. Where does he live?
He lives in the UK. He's British.
Okay, but what you've got to remember now is the police are terrorists.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. They will do things whether you like it or not.
Yeah. In fact, that's exactly part of his case. He was fighting 8 traffic speeding fines, of which he hadn't even been in the country, or certainly not in the area where the speeding fines were at the time. And he'd been fighting this, and he got to a point where a judge told him that she would help him. And
he's in the court again. Get out of the courts. That's their jurisdiction, not yours.
Yes.
Because a speeding fine is a notice.
Yes.
If you break down the word, it's all about words, Peter and Billy. If you break down the word notice, it's not ice. It's not a level playing field.
Right.
Yeah.
So you counter a notice by putting in another notice, and you put in a notice with your fee schedule. This is the difference. So your legal notice is, if they are insisting that it was you that was speeding, you say, who are you talking about? And they say, well, you haven't given me your name. And I said, no, but who do you think you're talking about? And eventually they'll go back to your birthday, because that's on your driving license, or it was.
Yeah.
Right.
If you've got one. So they are not attacking you personally, they're attacking your legal fiction, which they have absolute full control over because they stole it from you.
Yeah.
Right.
Even so, they are a bunch of terrorists. So if you do it legally, you can start off your legal notice in response to that is asking a man or woman to lay claim to a legal person's name is legal entrapment, unlawful, and a crime. And that's what they're trying to do, for you to take ownership of your legal fiction, which they produced. That's fraud.
That is correct.
You give them a card, they take it in there, and you go on the bottom of it, says, by accepting delivery of this legal notice, you agree to the fee schedule set out overleaf. And it starts off, unlawful kidnapping, £20,000. That's just one of them.
Yeah.
You can actually charge that back again. And they go, okay, we'll forget all this then and go and disappear. It's the same as if you mention the first word in your caution on the under the common law, the Article 61 caution, it mentions the word high treason. But I've got to tell you, as soon as you mention the word treason, they either start laughing at you or they disappear very, very quickly. Because most people know what treason means. If they start laughing at you, read the second part, which includes Nuremberg, and it actually is sedition. And sedition, the minimum sentence for sedition is asset stripping of that person's assets and life in jail. So you've got them whichever way, because they're all maxims at law that were produced to save the people. And the Nuremberg trials and the Nuremberg Code that came out of it was to stop this ever happening again. And now we find out that on Monday last week, 9th, Putin said, I've eventually, thank God, stopped the Second World War. It's finished now. Because that's exactly where the Khazarian mafia came from. The Third Reich went into the Fourth Reich. And then the people, that's where Putin has now brought his own country called Ukraine back into the Federation and got rid of all the people, the tyrants, who were all being fed by the US Democrats party and all those other people. So as far as I'm concerned now, it's all over. And we have the strength to do it only if we unite. Unite, we stand, divided we fall. And this is a big point that you really got to get across now. It's up to us, the people, they're not to the military. The military are there to take care of the tyrants and the terrorists.
Right. And then it's up to us to govern ourselves and not give consent in order and give up our rights from then on, which we have done way too many times. We continually give up our rights
because they're unalienable. You don't have the right to give them up. You've got those all the time. That's what you can't put a lien on it. You can't take it away.
All right,
Can you send me that list of inalienable rights? I'd really like to see that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thanks.
All right, let's go on. Jillian, you want to go ahead and unmute, dear? Thank you.
I'd like to say thank you, Ron, for all your amazing information. I have been on this road. I don't know if it's appropriate to show this book, but I read this in 1991, The Biggest Secret, and it has everything in it, from Kennedy's assassination to the royal family to Waterloo and how banking, modern day banking was created and the stock market, etc. And I would very much like to connect with Ron. I'm here in East Hampshire. I know you're not very far. If you're up for it, I would like that.
Well, sure, most definitely. All right, but yeah, you two can trade if you click on up in the upper right hand corner on the three dots. You can chat with a particular person, and it will go directly to them. If you don't want your personal information being left out, you can exchange emails. So just
you can also do that if you're using a Windows computer in the chat area where it says to everyone, or you can just choose whoever you want to talk to and talk to them directly.
Right, exactly.
Or you can send an email to ron@ronewest.com.
ronewest.com. Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, but thank you, Jillian, appreciate it. All right, nobody else has their hand raised right now.
Not fighting them all away.
I think we shocked
you,
everybody. Yeah.
you were given some great information, and we're going to do a much deeper dive into common law and everything else on an upcoming episode with Ron. But anybody else got any questions right now? Go ahead, raise your hand.
Right. Okay. So.
All right, Gaydon, go ahead.
Gaydon, we got someone good.
Yeah. When you were talking about the who Billy and the Biden giving away our sovereignty, somebody said, no, this is not happening. Well, it is happening.
Well, the thing about it is, this is also an exercise on how to pay attention and keep your rights as an individual entity, as an individual man, woman. All right, not a human, not a person, not a citizen, but as an individual man, woman. All right, and that is that you have to take action and actually write your Congress people, write your senators, write everybody in charge, get a hold of them, send them emails, send them letters, send them phone calls, everything in order to keep your sovereign rights away from the World Health Organization. They also tried to do this with our Second Amendment during the Clinton administration with the UN. All right, most people didn't realize that, but that also failed. And then Hillary Clinton brought it up once again when she was Secretary of State under the Obama administration, trying to take away our Second Amendment rights by going through the UN. That also failed because enough people wrote in and said, no, this is not going to happen. But
Right.
this is an exercise in being a good sovereign entity. All right, and not giving consent to of the governed to the people who are put in charge of us. All right, that we vote into office, because they are supposed to do our bidding, not the other way around.
Well, I heard on Steve Bannon's War Room on Friday, there you can Google it. There's an interview with Michelle Bachmann, and she's telling Steve that Congress, a lot of these people don't know anything about it. People are calling their congressmen.
You're right.
The
They don't.
Yeah, and
They don't.
So she gave out a email address for everyone to email directly to HHS.
Right. And this is what this is. This is a delegation that is being sent over by the Biden administration, unbeknownst to Congress. The senators in the House of Representatives know absolutely nothing about this.
That's what she's saying.
This is something that they are entering into illegally through the Biden administration, just a delegation sent over by the Biden administration to give away our sovereign health rights.
Yep. Well, I posted that address to write. I'll post it again in the chat.
Please do. Okay.
Yeah, because she was encouraging everyone to write them because Congress doesn't know what's going on.
Right. And if you would find the article and put it in my Telegram group as well. Okay. If you can find that Michelle Bachmann interview with Steve Bannon, or put it on the forum, put it in my Telegram group. I'll also look for it. Okay.
Okay.
It was Michelle Bachmann with Steve Bannon, correct?
Yes, just this past Friday.
On War Room. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Yeah. I'll definitely find it. I'll post it as well. Okay.
Awesome, because I'm not sure how to post it.
All right. No worries. No worries. I got it. All right. But thank you, Gaydon. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. Amy.
Hello there.
Hello, Amy.
Hello, Amy.
Hi. Sorry, no photo. I'm driving home from a garden center.
All right.
But I did want to share like a comment when you were talking about the QFS and NESARA and GESARA. And I know that when, for NESARA and GESARA to come in, that, all the presidents have to step down. So, and then there'll be like a new election, 120 days to hold a new election.
Yes.
Correct.
So when you guys mentioned July 4th, that really kind of tripped my trigger because November 4th in the United States, our elections, that's when our elections are held.
Yeah.
4
Correct.
months.
It's 120
July
days
4th.
exactly.
Yes.
Right. So I'm kind of thinking that all makes sense to me.
Yes.
Well, yeah, it does coincide. It may happen a lot sooner than that as far as the RV and everything else is concerned, and the midterms actually may get moved up. We don't know at this point.
Oh.
It's all speculation. But there has to be the scare event. There has to be the bringing down of the Biden administration, whether that is happening by one way or another. Whether it's the whole SCOTUS ruling that the 2020 election was fraudulent and bringing that whole thing down, and then the Biden administration getting arrested for treason and crimes against humanity and all of that. I mean, it's coming from several different places at this point, and not one of them is associated with Trump.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I came up with July 4th because I just looked at all the things which have to happen. And, that we're being told, oh, it's coming the next few days. But I just look at things like Ukraine's not finished. Biden is still there. We have the food issues and things like that. And there are so many loose ends which are not quite tied up.
And we have to go through London bridges falling down, the Three Gorges Dam getting blown up, and Bitcoin and the stock market crash and all of that. There's a lot of events that have to happen at this point.
That's right. And in Birmingham, Simon Parkes actually said that that nothing's going to happen until the Platinum Jubilee celebration has gone through. And so that again is a reason to think that there are still things to happen.
Yes. And when is the Jubilee?
It's coming up in June, a couple of weeks, actually.
That's right. So that's why I sort of added it all together and thought, what date makes a lot of sense? And then I thought July the 4th. I
mean, I guess the RV could happen, right? And the QFS could.
The RV could actually happen before then for us.
Right. Yes.
For Tier 4B. It probably won't be announced to the general public until all of the events are over with. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. All of this just seems to make so much sense. I kind of can see it coming together now.
Yeah. I see it like a big jigsaw puzzle where you have lots of little pieces, and you start out with just a wild big mess, and as you put the pieces together, it makes more and more sense. And this is what I'm seeing happening, and I'm beginning to believe that July the 4th is going to be a significant day.
Right.
Yeah, I'm beginning to believe that too, or somewhere right around there. Well, thanks, guys. You do an amazing job. It was great chatting with you.
You too, Amy. Be careful driving.
That's right. And I hope you got some good stuff at the garden center.
Yes.
Oh, I got some great stuff. I'm going to go home and dig in the dirt.
Get grounded. That's the way to do it.
Get grounded and make sure you have plenty of food, because there's going to be big shortages.
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
Working on that. Working on my stockpile.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
guys.
Amy.
Bye-bye.
Chris, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, man, how's it going?
Doing good.
So we've had a lot of talk about, especially kind of what Ron was talking about. And I was always under the understanding that since the United States corporation is bankrupt, Biden is the resident, because you can't have a president of a bankrupt corporation. All of these orders that he's doing and the sovereignty deal with the WHO, and I mean, he has no authority to do any of those things, does he?
He does not have the authority to do things. Now, the question is, can you have a president of a bankrupt corporation? Yes, you can, as long as it's in receivership. Okay, which the bank or the United States of America Corporation is still in receivership under Chapter 11 because of its debt. All right, you follow me? So you can still have a president of a defunct corporation, but does it have any teeth anymore? No, it does not. Okay, but the question is, do you want people to stop to believe that Biden doesn't have any authority in order to give away our sovereign rights? Or would you rather have them go through the motions of defending their sovereign rights instead of just sitting back and saying, oh, that's BS? Okay.
Right. No, I completely
you follow what I'm saying? It's an exercise in our own sovereignty is what it is in getting people used to standing up for their rights.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense. And we definitely don't want people to sit back and do nothing and just wait for all this to happen, because that's how we got into this mess. And Ron, what you were saying earlier, also completely on board with. And for those of anyone out there that are familiar with David Straight, his Out of Babylon series, I picked it up on I think it was Billy, your Telegram channel, and have sent it out to so many different people. You can YouTube him, but he goes by step on how to become a United States nationalist and your land rights and all of the different things. And he does these weekend courses, but it's very, very interesting. And I think, Ron, from what you were saying, you're saying basically the same thing. And how all that kind of works together. So I'm just started studying it and going to start going through the process, but it's very interesting, but also very, I feel like pretty technical in a sense. It's a lot to digest.
Yeah, sure. The David Straight is absolutely excellent because he's looking at it from the US point of view, and I'm looking at it from the English point of view. That's really, and I watch him a lot. He's got some very, very good points, and he's got a lovely way of putting stuff across as well.
Yeah, that's all I had. I was just curious, Billy, Peter. Thank you guys.
No, sure. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Patricia, go ahead, dear. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Evening, gentlemen. Evening, everybody else. I agree with both Peter and Billy that July is looking a pertinent month for the public to be aware of GESARA and NESARA, and probably the revaluation for tier 5. Whether tier 4 is done before then, that we'll have to wait and see. Do you remember Charlie mentioned a channeling session by Michelle Fielding where she identified July as the possible month?
Yes.
All right. Yes.
And last week I said that Charlie has his ways of getting information out via other people. So, you know, I think that was Charlie getting the information out about the RV through Michelle.
That
Right.
could be. That could be.
That's
okay.
just my intuition.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, he's not allowed to say things, but if he
Exactly.
tells somebody
So
else to say something,
Yeah.
you know, that and it
But
comes
that
from a
video
different
of
source.
Michelle went round quite a bit, you know, so a lot of people were a bit taken aback by her predictions on that. But I think that that date in July carries a lot of weight, to be truthful.
Yeah, I mean, it just came to me, you know, when I was just looking at the data and thinking, well, what makes sense? And it just came to me, July the 4th. It's such an important date in the American calendar. And
it will no longer be known as just an American holiday.
We've got to have rescheduling of the date of the Freedom Day.
Yeah.
So that might be something that they think about.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, exactly.
I went to a training session for common law today, although I did learn a few things, but I was adding my 4 pennyworth into the conversation.
All right.
This was in Totnes, which is a town for people outside of Britain don't know. It's a very awakened town. They were very awake, some more than others, and they were very interested in the presentation, which was done by a group here for common law, which is Guardian 300.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard of them, Peter.
Guardian 300. No, not. I
Yeah.
don't think so.
They're on Telegram, so if you want to have a look at them there.
Okay, Guardian 300. I'll look them
Guardian
up.
300, yeah.
Can I come in there, please?
Yeah, sure.
Guardians 300, please go away from them.
I was
It's
just
not
going to
there.
say that. I was just going to say that, Ron. They are not.
I'm not going to say anymore, but they've come up to having some challenges with the Common Law Court of Great Britain.
You've taken the words out of my mouth, Ron. I was just going to say that, but they are going around doing some common law stuff. But some of what they said was interesting. I hadn't realised it was them that was taking the meeting that I went to attend today for the training. It was just an aspect on sovereignty, but they do steer people down the wrong path at times because, you know, so, but what was said today was very factual and I agreed with it. But as I said, I was chiming in a lot, which I wasn't there. I wasn't there to do that. I was there as a learner, but, you know, because he didn't go far enough in my view, so that I was actually adding the extra bits of information for him. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Patricia. Appreciate it. Matthew?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Great. Australia's having its federal election on May the 21st.
Mhm.
In terms of the GESARA government, when can we anticipate the new GESARA government or arrest of current public officials and the installment of the new GESARA government? When can we anticipate that to happen in Australia or worldwide in general?
All right. Do you have a calendar?
Yes.
Do you have a set of darts?
Darts? No, but I can buy some.
Okay. All right. Do you have a blindfold?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So take the darts, blindfold yourself first. Make sure you know where the calendar is. Don't just start throwing, darts everywhere. All right. But blindfold yourself, grab a dart and throw it at the calendar. Okay. And that will give you the date that you are predicting. Okay. From the cosmic energy flowing throughout the universe. All right. And we'll go by that date there. How does that sound, Matthew?
And I suggest you make sure there's no one else in the room at the time.
Yeah, and make sure there's no one else in the room at the time. Okay. All right.
That answers my question.
We're basically playing pin the tail on the donkey at this point. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Joking apart, guys, you've got probably one of the best guys in Australia, Ricardo Bossi. I would suggest you go to see him. Basically, he's incredible, and he has got it off to a T. Yeah,
Ricardo Bossi is very excellent. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a follower. Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
But your guess is as good as ours. Matthew. I had to get it to it a roundabout some way, but thanks. All right.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Kirsten.
Hello.
Hi, Kirsten.
I was just thinking about the movie Independence Day.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that was my line from the movie Independence Day. Yes.
Yeah. What happened in that movie? We defeated the aliens, right?
Yeah.
For our independence, reptilians.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And what did we have to get rid of? We had to get rid of a virus, correct?
Yeah.
They told us the truth. We just didn't listen.
Well, the thing about it is that Steven Spielberg actually owned the rights to the naming of the movie, The War of the Worlds. It was actually supposed to be originally a remake of The War of the Worlds. That's what it was supposed to be. But Steven Spielberg owned the rights to the movie name War of the Worlds. But if you follow the movie from the original book and the original movie, it follows basically the same type of thing, only in a much more modern sense. And then, of course, Spielberg released his version of The War of the Worlds.
Yep.
But it's essentially the same thing. Yeah, it's essentially the same thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
All
we
right,
love
thanks.
these movie references.
Oh yeah. Well, one of the things that people don't realize in the actual movie, whenever Will Smith's soon to be wife in the movie, all right, and she's going around and picking up people in order to save them in the movie. Did you know that the truck that she was driving in the movie was actually the same truck that was used in the original War of the Worlds movie?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Piece of useless trivia.
Yeah, useless trivia, but it was one of those things of they use portions of the original movie props and everything else in Independence Day, and most people don't realize that, but it was really cool. It was actually really cool. Darren, here comes the trivia question for the day.
Hey, how's it going today, guys?
Yeah, great. We always wait for your message.
Okay, I got two questions. I got a white hat question, then I also have a Star Trek question.
Right. Okay.
My white hat question is that do you by chance think that the white hats are trying to delay until the November American elections, and they think that's going to make a big difference?
I know. I
don't think that's really what the case is at all. No.
I think we've already said that. From my calculations, July the 4th is what we're heading for.
Right, but that will set up the military martial law, which will give them 120 days in order to set up new elections, which would coincide with November 4th, which is the midterm election.
That's right. So that's the 120 days. That means July the 4th is the beginning of the 120 days, and November 4th will be the end of the 100. It made sense to me.
Well, here's another possibility. Sorry about the dogs. Another possibility I was thinking is maybe they're trying to delay this martial law action until the middle of the summer, so people aren't impacted as near as much during cold weather months versus warm weather months.
Well, that makes sense to a point, but also I think we're going to have more riots coming up this summer anyway. They're already, going into that mode. All right. Yeah. Especially if, the Antifa and BLM and whatnot are already starting to rattle sabers over the whole Roe v. Wade thing. All right. And what people don't realize is that, whenever we're talking about Roe v. Wade was a Supreme Court decision that allowed abortions throughout the land without the public's vote. Okay. That's the whole thing. What the SCOTUS decision is to take it out of the hands of the states and the people's vote. That doesn't mean it makes it illegal to have an abortion. It then falls to the state legislators and the voters of each state as to the laws that they want to put in as far as abortion is concerned. It does not outlaw it. It does not take away any women's rights or anything else. That is a complete and utter lie.
Okay.
Complete and utter lie.
Okay, here's my Star Trek question for you guys.
Yes.
First of all, Peter, I did watch Strange New Worlds. Awesome. I really, really like Strange New World. Okay, so my Star Trek question for you guys, if you guys got to serve under one captain, you only get to pick one out of all the different Star Trek captains through the years, which Star Trek captain would you serve under and why?
Well, for me, there's only two which would be, because of my involvement with Star Trek New Voyages, that was always Captain James T. Kirk. But as regards captains, I think my favorite captain has to be Jean-Luc Picard. Because he's so logical, has such a good authority. He's just, I think, definitely the favorite captain I would want to be serving under.
What about you, Billy?
I would have to say Kirk.
Would you?
And the reason, my reason for that is I liked his style as far as him being very, how should I put it? To the point and to the rules, okay, and things of that nature. And I think he was, just the ultimate captain overall. Okay. Especially in the later years and leading up through the movies. All right. But that's just me.
Yeah, for my personality type, I'd have to say probably Janeway. I really liked Captain I mean, I like them all, but I think for just my personality type, I would probably work best under Janeway. But I tell you what, Pike's running a close second. I really like his style and his demeanor. So
well, it just depends on who's playing who too. Okay.
That's right.
I mean, you know, there have been other people who played the actors and whatnot. Or actors that have played the characters,
different characters.
But it just depends on who you like, as far as, you know, using the rules to manipulate things to your advantage. Okay. All right. In Kirk's famous, thing of, well, I don't like to lose. All right. And that was always my thing. If my option is to lose or to lose, I choose neither. And I'm going to manipulate everything that I can in order to win.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The Kobayashi Maru test,
the Kobayashi Maru test.
Yeah, exactly. The thing about Janeway is, I felt she had a terrible voice in the original American. And when I listened to the dubbed version into German, they have a much better voice actress for playing Janeway than I think the original Janeway in American.
Oh, really?
The German dubbed version of Janeway has an authority a bit like Jean-Luc Picard has in English. Much more believable. Whereas the squeaky voice of Janeway in the English one, it doesn't come over so well, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's all about style.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Aaron. All right. Marilyn.
Is that Marilyn Monroe?
Marilyn Ali.
Ali. Oh, okay.
Okay. Marilyn, you there? No,
maybe
Marilyn.
Maybe it is Monroe.
We're waiting. We're waiting. Marilyn Ali. No. We'll come back. Bev Kilmer. Bev, are you there?
I am. Thank you.
There she is.
Me. Okay. Thank you guys for calling on me. I've been following this now, like most of all of us, for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got some questions recently. Well, I say recently. Do you remember on March 31st, we were all told that Congress was sent home? They received a message from Nancy Pelosi that what the press was being told was it was because of COVID, but it was because that was the deadline of when we were switching from the USA Inc. over to the actual Republic again, which thrilled us to no end. What I want to know is, if that's the case, and I want to believe it, and I still do believe it, I don't think anything that's happening in DC right now is legitimate, period. And that gives me peace to think that, believe it.
Right.
I think it gives us what we need to move forward, stay strong, and encourage others to stay in this battle. We've got a long way to go with it, regardless of what happens with these so-called dates that we're getting.
Sure.
But what I want to know is, what is your take on that? If Congress is really gone and it was under penalty of being removed militarily, they were told, pack your things, your services are no longer needed. This has been an illegal operation. Your election was not proper. All of this is over. You will not receive paychecks any further. And they also stated that they had put in a new interim government until elections can be held. One is, am I right on target with that? Is that what y'all have, your understanding is as well? And where does that put us right now?
Yes, that is true. Okay. Everything that you're seeing right now is a movie. All right. And it's designed to wake up the masses. All right. But it is also an exercise in civics. All right. To get people to pay attention so that we don't have this happen again. The education process, as far as our rights and how our government is supposed to work, has already started. Okay. And what we're doing is we're waking up people to the fact that you better pay attention and you better know your rights. Otherwise, they will get taken away and you won't have any rights anymore and you'll own nothing and be happy about it.
Within this same context of what we're talking, who is supposed to have zero authority over anything for all practical purposes? This, I'm assuming what you're saying in many ways is exactly what you've just mentioned with our government and everything. We're going through the movie. Who is supposed to theoretically have been muted, if you will, where they actually have no overall power, given that we've got an alliance of 17 nations and 209 actually are working with us. What I guess what I want to know to that effect is
who's in charge?
Awakening. Well, I think I know who's in charge, don't I?
Yeah.
Can you see my face, y'all? Can you see my?
Yeah, we can see your face.
I know who's in charge. Yeah.
Okay.
But I want to know, is all of this that's going on with the WHO right now that's scaring people so much? How do we keep, or how do we make all of this come together to where it doesn't become more of a backfire with people actually thinking that the WHO is going to have authority to come in here and take over our sovereignty and things like that? We know that those of us that are awake know that that isn't going to happen, but we want to make sure nobody goes off the deep end as well. And maybe does something that's going to maybe take their own lives or things like that. Am I wrong?
All right. I get your point. Okay. There are extremists on both ends of the aisle.
Always.
Okay. You're always going to have people out there who are going to want to, how should I put it, cause a ruckus in one way or another. You have extreme right-wing groups, you have extreme left-wing groups that want violence. That's all they want. They want to be able to take up arms and go in and cause real havoc and real pain and suffering on people. All right. That is what we are trying to avoid. All right. So if you're talking about why would we have to go through this in order to gain our sovereign rights, this is a test in civility. Okay. To be civil with each other, but know that there is a common enemy out there that is trying to take our rights away. And if we don't stand up collectively for our rights, they will get taken away. All right. So I get your point. Why do we have to go through this? Why, when we know in our own hearts that we, this is not going to happen. All right. But if you don't, how are you going to teach the younger generation how to do it?
I understand that, and I'm glad that you elaborated on it to the extent that you did. I just want to be able to, because I do speak on this quite a bit here in Florida, and I want to be able to give encouragement that we need to be awake. We need to understand what's going on. We need to encourage other people not to think it's the end of the world when you hear that WHO may be getting the UN troops to come in here and
That will
implement
never
martial
happen.
law.
That
Of
will
course
never
not.
happen. That will
Yeah.
And
never happen.
That's my thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
I certainly think that the United Nations would be maybe even more dangerous than the WHO. But on the other side, when GESARA comes in, isn't your constitution going to revert back to that of 1776?
That is
And
correct.
all those laws are going to be null and void.
Right. Because what we've been living under Admiralty law since 1871, when the United States of America Corporation was formed, we have been living under Admiralty law, not common law. Okay. So yeah, everything has been reversed as far as that is concerned. This is just another tactic in order to wake people up to the fact that if we don't pay attention, okay, to what our elected officials are doing on our behalf, they are our public servants. They are not lords over us. All right. They are there to represent us. Okay. As a people.
Let me ask you this to that point then. I was under the assumption, and we know what that means, but that we are actually reverted back now to 1776, the new restored republic. It hasn't been announced yet, but it's my understanding we are actually back under the 1776 constitutional law.
That is correct. And we are currently under military law.
Control.
Since
Yes.
we do not have a functional government at this point, it's just not been announced to the general public as yet.
Great. All right. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just reading more into everything I read into, but my 8th great grandfather was George Mason, and the Bill of Rights guy. And so I learned about 1876 when I learned that he was one of my ancestors. So when I found that, I went ballistic, as you can imagine, realizing we're a corporation. We're a for-profit corporation owned by the Brits and the Vatican and everybody but us. So that's when I got locked in back in 2012. And since then, it's become my lifeblood. So seeing this happen, but I just wanted to get a deeper understanding of how to express it and make sure I'm not reading what I want to read, but what actually is.
No, you're reading everything correctly. All right. Remember that there are 4 documents, like I explained before, that explain out what the United States is all about. The Declaration of Independence, number 1. Number 2, the Constitution. Number 3, the amendments to the Constitution. And number 4, the Bill of Rights. 4 separate documents that spell out exactly what the United States is all about. All right. Then you go and read the charter that was put together in 1871 by Congress illegally. All right. And then signed off on by a drunk Ulysses S. Grant, who went to the bankers with his hat in his hand. All right. And not acting very presidential either.
Can I say something here?
Yeah, go ahead, Ron. I was waiting for you to jump in there.
Yeah, I was wondering where you'd gone.
Hi,
no, I
Ron.
haven't gone. I've had to put some drops in my eyes. What happened was in the UK is that you don't have nobody, because the people start everything off. The people, it reverts back to the people. If you've got no government, it's got to be the people together, because we should be united completely and utterly. And that's what you can still use the Constitution of the Magna Carta in doing what you do. How you do it over there, I don't see any reason not to change it, because you're not saying any oath to anybody else but to the Article 61, which you must have taken on, because that's the security article. So from an outside point of view, I can't see what the difference is. And again, it's up to the people to stop all this, because it's come back to that. The military are there to support you. And so you've got something else that we haven't got in the UK. And that is the sheriffs. We don't have sheriffs, county sheriffs here.
Right.
We used to, but they were all taken over and destroyed by the government, mainly Tony Blair and his sort of cronies. But the point is, we had the Magna Carta, Article 61, and that is sacrosanct. Is actually why I actually wrote out, if you do not pass it on, then you're committing an offence under common law because you're causing harm.
Right.
And this is where the military are trying to wake you up at the moment to say, you know, get on with it, guys, because we're waiting here for you to do what you need to do, and then we'll come in when you want us.
Mm-hmm.
Because they, in turn, are your servants that will support you, which is exactly what our police should do. And in the oath of a police constable in the UK, it actually says that he supports the sovereign. The sovereign's gone, and the people and their property. Right. That's what an oath of every policeman in the UK should be doing. It went into the corporations. They decided that they follow the corporations, which is unlawful. And we have to remember that everything that they say is legal is unlawful. Everything legal is unlawful because the law is common law and it's universal law. That's where it comes to law. It has to be law. But they can't make laws. They can only make acts and statutes and legislation. So this is why we are so powerful where we are now. If we can come together, and that's really what all this is about. Come together, guys. You've got a tour going around the Americas anyway with some of the pretty top people. I know Mel Kay's on there, and all the names that roll off, Anne Van der Steel, all these people that we absolutely admire in the UK because they come on through Charlie and through other people as well. But you know what they're doing is doing their best to help you understand that you have to be there. It's the people that are charged, and we're not used to that. This is the problem. The people have been suppressed so much that they're looking for the hand. You know, please help me, but you haven't got that help anymore because you've got the strength to be on top. Okay, that helps.
Right, and Ron brings up a very good point here in the United States where we have sheriffs. All right, this is very important. All right, there is a difference in between an appointed sheriff and an elected sheriff. There is a difference in between an appointed police chief and an elected police chief. Okay, the whoever is appointed is beholden to whoever appointed them, the mayor or what have you. All right, the police chief that is elected, the sheriff that is elected, takes the same oath of office as the President of the United States to defend and uphold the Constitution of the United States. They actually take that same oath of office and are not beholden to any other government official. Not the governor, not the representatives, not the Senate, anything. No. They take the same oath of office as the President of the United States to defend the Constitution.
100%.
And I have a question to Ron. Now, Article 61, which you've referred to several times, is it not true that in later editions of the Magna Carta, that Article 61 was no longer included in it?
No, it's not, because you can't change the original. That's why it's called Magna Carta 1215. It's always got the 1215 on it because there were lots and lots of people. But you see, it was done before the state arrived and before any governments arrived, and it was done to the king, who was a rogue tyrant king, and he decided to have a good go at the English. He wasn't even an English king. He was the king of Normandy, and he was a caretaker king of England at the time, because Richard was over fighting the wars in the Crusades.
Right.
So he gave the king of Normandy, who happened to be King John, the caretaker job for looking after England at the time. And it was just England then, by the way, as well. So it was the people that rose up and said, hey, you're not going to do that. Our king's away, but you're not going to come here and start taxing us anymore. And they kicked him out, basically, along with the knights. These are the knights in shining armor, if you will, but they're the knights of the realm. And the knights of the realm needed the people because they couldn't function without the people. So there was a different relationship to master and slave. Because somebody had to run the estates of these people when they were away. So they like had a management committee of people that actually did it all for him. It was like,
Got a mic.
It's where we want to go to. Yeah.
It's interesting because a cousin of mine who lives in the UK is actually a professor of politics at a university. I think the one near Staines. And I had a conversation with him about common law, and he totally disagreed with what I was saying. Yeah. And I've never been able to fully refute what he told me. He tells you to read things like Darcy and.
Can you understand what happened to our education system?
Well, yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, it got dumbed down to the point where it's not relevant anymore.
No, because the government of the day actually organised the curriculum that people are taught, even in universities. Yeah, and they don't learn it. It's one of the reasons that Nick Benjamin, who's the young guy that upholds the We the People publication in the UK, Nicholas, you must know Nicholas Benjamin.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
He was a lawyer, and he packed up when that sort of thing came up. He got up out of his seat and he said, "You're just talking rubbish. I'm out of here." And that's exactly what he did. He was in law school at the time, right? And because he'd learned an awful lot through the history. And when he and I got together, we had an absolute scream last May. In fact, do you know what? It's a year ago since Nicholas actually interviewed me. It's on BitChute.
Okay.
But I was laughing so much because of the comments he was making, and it all sort of rang true, you know.
Oh yeah.
We were talking about the Magna Carta, the Queen, and common law. Yeah.
Let's look that
up. All right. Let's see if we can go back to Marilyn Ali. Marilyn, are you there? Can you unmute, dear?
Yes, I think I figured it out.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Very loudly, in fact.
It's loud? Oh,
yeah,
I'll turn my speaker down.
That's all right. Don't worry.
Is that better?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
Is that okay now?
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of different questions. The other day, I was listening on Telegram, and there's a guy in there. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him, Captain Kyle. He's with the 76th Airborne, and he's supposed to be somebody that is connected with the military, knows quite a bit. He said on his Telegram channel the other day, because he did. Have you guys ever heard of him?
No, I actually have not.
I haven't either.
Oh, well, he has a lot of good information, and I find that a lot of it's true. But anyway, he was talking the other day on there, and somebody had asked him about our sovereignty or national or citizenry and all that stuff, and he said not to worry about it because they have already got in place for us that as soon as the GESARA and GESARA and all that gets announced, that they've already got in place our sovereignty for us, and it will take place as soon as that gets announced. But it's already in place. Have you guys ever heard any of that?
Yeah, that is part of GESARA is that we go back to common law and we get rid of all the admiralty law and the birth certificates and things of that nature, which has enslaved us forever and a day. And we actually get back our sovereign entity rights as a man or woman. Okay, that is part of GESARA. That is correct.
And so he said that we didn't have to do anything like Ann Vandersteel and people were talking about, having to get fill out paperwork to get our sovereignty back or nationalism, whatever you want to call it, back. Is that true?
It is not necessary, really. All right. However, okay, I think it's still a good exercise in learning how your civil rights really work. Okay, as far as being a sovereign entity, okay, and figuring out how it was hijacked and everything from you. All right, that way you are educated on it, And
I
you can
understand all
and,
that.
well,
Mhm.
but then you can speak intelligently to those people who don't know about it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
well, I try to talk to people about it, but people don't want to hear it. They think I'm crazy, so
Well, yeah,
I'm done.
they all think we're crazy.
I'm done
That's
trying
for
to tell
sure.
them anything.
Right, but there are some people out there.
I just
If
keep
you
saying,
put-
okay, just watch it. When everything comes out, then you're gonna find out the truth, and you'll find out that I was right.
Yep, yeah, exactly.
So that's all I say now.
Is it automatically going to happen? Yes, it will. Okay. Is it a good lesson in how our civil rights work? Yes, it is. Okay. And it's really good to be knowledgeable about common law and the common law court. And brush up on it, because
Yeah,
that's
I
what
would
we're
like
going to
to
be
find
living
out more
under.
about that because that's
yeah.
that I want to study and find out more about because I really need to learn that.
Oh yeah. Okay.
One quote I saw, which made me laugh, is that everybody thought Noah was an idiot until it started to rain.
Mm-hmm. Well,
That's true. I read
until
that
it started
too.
to flood. When it started raining, everybody was happy that it was raining because there was a drought going on, but they didn't believe him that it was going to rain for 40 days and 40 nights. All right. But when it started to flood, that was when it really took off.
So
but anyway,
do you think they were flooding the dams at the time?
That could be. There was a lot of dummies back at that time because they didn't listen to Noah.
I think they're flooding some of them.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
But
We
there's
have
an awful
dams
lot of-
and we have a lot of underground tunnels and dams here in California where I live.
Oh,
I
yeah.
live in Southern California,
Yeah, there would
and
be.
I live not far from Fort Edwards
Mhm.
Air Force Base. And so we hear stuff all the time. I mean, sometimes it's extremely loud and so loud it scares the crap out of me and my dog,
Well,
one of my
yeah.
dogs.
What was it? 2
And
weeks ago
but we hear it all the time.
We had 2 weeks ago here about 5 miles from my house, we had a 2.8 magnitude quake that sounded more like an explosion than it did. There was a quick about 10-second shake after it, but it sounded like an explosion. It was about 5 miles from my house.
Yeah, but these ones you can tell we get a lot of sonic booms because they do fly, those big jets and stuff.
Oh,
But
yeah.
you can tell the sonic booms from the earthquakes and from when they're working on the tunnels. And I
Oh,
think
yeah.
they had to go back in and redo the tunnels, some of them, because people started to redo them or something. That's what I read. Some of them happened to be redone.
That is a
What's his name?
possibility.
The guy with the dog that talks. I forget his name, Gene Decode. He said they've had to come back and do some of the tunnels again because people had got into them somehow again.
Yeah.
But the other thing I wanted to ask was today, I don't know where I read it because I read so much and researching so many different things. I don't remember where I read it, but I heard that Donald Trump has removed us from the WHO. That's what I heard today or read today. Did anybody else hear that or read that?
I've heard several different opposing theories regarding this. The thing that I just keep mentioning over and over again is that whether it is true or not, okay, whether the report has been put out there that the Biden administration is about ready to sign over our sovereign health rights to the WHO, and that cannot happen. So all I'm saying is whether it's true
right,
or
I
not,
read that.
whether it's true or not, we all need to exercise our civil rights in order to make it not happen. Okay. And that way we are prepared and we are paying attention and we know what to do.
I haven't researched it. I haven't researched to see if I found anything else about it. So I don't know if Donald Trump really did anything like that or not, but we have to contact who? Our senators,
senators, representatives, governors, okay, anybody and everybody who is in government at this point, mayors, whatever. Okay.
The only who I
And I have one other question.
Okay, carry on.
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead, Peter.
I say the only who I would agree to is the band.
Well, that's before my time, so I don't know too much
Roger
about them.
Daltrey, guitarist. Peter
Anyway,
Allen.
what I was going to say was, now I don't really know the Who too much now.
No, okay.
Oh gosh.
I just I've heard of them, but I don't really know much of them.
Okay.
Before my time, I guess. My husband probably knows more of them than I do. Sorry about that.
We're talking Pete Townsend, Roger
The last thing I was going to ask about was that
Giant whistle, you know.
Carry on.
No, I don't know them. The last thing I was going to ask you about was that you guys are saying that Trump can't come back in and stuff, and about the 120 days. I have read about the 120 days and all that stuff. I've researched that. But I've also been reading, and different places I've read it, that he can come back and will be coming back as the 19th president. And the military is actually in control. We all know Biden's not the president, but there's also somebody else that I forget the guy's name that they turned over power to with the military. Have you heard that?
Lincoln, or who is it?
Well, it would be JFK Jr.
Oh, JFK Jr. Yeah.
Yeah. Who would be vice
this
president.
was somebody else. The name Ezra Cohen, but I know it's not Ezra Cohen because he's not. Somebody they would do that with. I just can't. The guy's name is just slips my mind at the moment. But that's what I heard, and so he won't come back as the 19th president, and he can't take office. Is what you're saying?
Well, no, he will come back as the 19th president, but under being an elected president.
Yeah.
When everything is done, he will not be the 46th president of the 47th president of the United States. He would be elected as the 19th president.
Well, what if the Supreme Court overturns the election? Can he come back that way?
No.
As if they say that it's overturned and they find him the legal president?
All they can say is that the duly elected president was elected fraudulently, and we have to establish new elections because we have a dysfunctional government. And under military law, okay, they cannot instill a president because when we have a dysfunctional government, okay, if the president is taken out, the vice president is taken out, and then the Speaker of the House is taken out, then it falls to the Secretary of State in order to form new elections. But if the Secretary of State is also implicated and taken out, then it falls to military martial law.
Right, I know.
The military does not have the authority to install a president. All they can declare is that we have a dysfunctional government and we need to have new elections under military law. Okay.
Can I just say something here, guys?
Yeah, sure, Ron.
Again, standing from outside the USA, what I've always heard here is any decision that's made it's got to be to the law of war, which is a huge manual apparently.
That is correct. The law of war manual. That is what I'm quoting right now.
That was what I understood is why Biden was allowed to carry on, although it was interference from a foreign power. It's because of the law of war, and that was they had to do it. In other words, if they'd taken him out there, and it would have been up in arms across the whole country.
That is correct.
There were too many people voting, and it's the people that make all the difference. If
that
you
is
look
correct.
At the level of people now, the people that actually are in charge, but they don't have a stable government to have anyway, because they've reneged on everything they've done. So the military is taking over to help the people, and that's really the thing. They will help the people, but they won't command them.
That is correct.
Yeah. So this is
but everything Biden has done, all the EOs and all that stuff, those are illegal, right? And they can just be wiped away.
Hello. Can I just say one more thing, guys? It's important. Right, you've got a guy there, I think he died just recently, called Jordan Maxwell.
Mm-hmm.
Go listen to the guy because he is absolutely amazing on words.
Yes.
He calls himself a guy who's an ordinary guy exploring extraordinary avenues or something
Right.
like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he will calm anything down, and he had such a lovely voice. But I think he passed just recently. I think it was in March.
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah,
But
I've
he
heard
was
his
a
stuff as
great
well.
guy to listen to.
Yeah,
It's all
absolutely.
about words.
All right, but Marilyn, thank you, appreciate it. Going back to Kristen real quick.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hi guys, I'm with my neighbors now.
Okay, and
And they're also awake.
do we need to red pill them?
Nope, they are already red pilled. They already are
Okay,
awake.
good.
Yeah, that's why they're my neighbors.
Because
Okay.
all I have left are suppositories about the size of my 13 triple E
Yeah,
shoe.
she says no
okay?
thanks.
Okay.
No, Billy, she says no thank you.
All right, great.
I keep forgetting to tell you, Billy. I'm event host in the CC in North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, so I forget to tell you that every time. No, I was just wondering. You know, Ron says we need to stand up. The military is waiting for us to stand up, but there's only so few of us that are awake and aware and know what's going on to stand up. So how do we get the masses to stand up other than take their rights away?
Well, that's the whole thing is you have to scare them into a point of doing everything. And then you also have to take over the mainstream media.
Right.
Exactly.
Which they don't
And
want anyway.
Ron is holding it up right now. Okay. The Magna Carta. And
Yes, but our masses don't know about anything that's going on, nor do they watch the news because it's all fake anyway. And they have no idea. They're vacationing, they're getting their lattes. They have no idea.
Right. Well, the mainstream media has been told either they start telling the truth or they lose their licenses.
Yeah, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, actually,
the same in the UK. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. They were given a deadline, and it's coming.
Tell them to watch our show. That'll help them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From your lips
exactly.
to God's ears. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
Guys, I've known about this for many years because I worked with a great guy who did it all right from the 2001. But the thing is that people do not believe their rights because they've assumed they've been taken away from them, and because they keep on or have up to now kept on flattening them down with everything else. It's tyranny. And if you look what's happened in the story, you're going to get everything back. And okay, there may be a tax on one thing and one thing only, but everything puts the people back in charge. And that's really the point you've got to sell. It's the icing on the cake is what you can do it as. But what I was pointing to just now was the maxim in law of ignorance, because you cannot have knowledge of the Magna Carta and have ignorance in the same sentence. Because once you know about it, it's your duty to actually spread the word, and that's really all we've got to happen. And now, if you join together with your skill base, we're all going to be having to grow our own veggies and salads now, because it's also contaminated. So what's happening already across the world is exactly what happened straight after the Second World War. In everybody's garden, they used to grow the vegetables and the salads, and the berries and the fruits, and they used to share it across the fence. So one family would do the spuds and the potatoes, the spuds and the turnips, and the next guy would do the runner beans and all this. So we built a community without even realizing it, because everything else was rationed. Right. We haven't got that yet. So I put it to you that it was worse when I came out of the Second World War.
Oh, much, much worse. I mean, people don't realize how good they actually have it nowadays. Okay, they really, really don't. They have never had to need for anything. There's a lot of want, okay, but never have to need for anything. Because it's so readily available. I mean, people are like, I am so poor because I can't afford the 60-inch big screen TV that my neighbor has. I am so downtrodden. I am so, not with it. But I'm sorry, if you've got food on your table and a roof over your head and everything else, everything beyond that is gravy, man.
Yeah.
Everything else beyond that is gravy. And that's
Absolutely
the way you
100%.
have to look at it,
Absolutely.
you know? So, and having a big screen TV is not a right, folks. It is not.
What a pity.
It is not a right. It is not even a privilege. Okay. All right. But anyway, thank you all.
I think we can wrap up now.
Yep. Any final thoughts, Ron, Peter?
Can I just say I thoroughly enjoyed every minute with you, and I'd love to do it with you again and help you get.
You're
over
very
this.
welcome, Ron. Anytime. You're
We would love
a very
to have,
valued user member of the group. Yeah.
Yes, most definitely. We will have more constructive stuff on common law coming up here in the next few weeks, because it is going to be what we're going into, folks. We're going to have to educate ourselves on it. And so, Peter, I'll let you and Ron discuss that. Discuss when you all want to do that.
That's right. Yes.
But any final thoughts?
Well, I say the topic of common law is coming up everywhere. At the CC meeting in Cologne, which I visited today, that was one of the #1 topics that people were talking about. And also at our Birmingham meeting was also a major topic. More and more people are becoming aware of common law, and I think that's a very good thing. And the more we can do to help educate people on common law and educate ourselves, I think the better.
Yeah, I'm happy to be a guest whenever you want me to, Peter. So don't worry.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I really enjoyed the discussion we had over breakfast on Monday last week. I learned a lot also about your history and working in the, I think it was an aircraft business. Huh?
Jim, you wanted to chime in real quick?
Yeah, I think that all the judges that are really technical, illegal on what they're doing.
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct. Every last one of them is part of, if they're a lawyer, they're part of the Bar Association or the American Bar Association. BAR actually stands for British Accreditation Registry. Okay.
Wow.
All right. And so every lawyer is trained under Admiralty law. Every judge is trained under Admiralty law, under the British Crown. Technically, it's illegal.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is it illegal or unlawful?
Unlawful. Okay, I'm sorry. I have to remember my terminology.
Yeah.
Unlawful is against the law. Illegal is a sick bird. Okay.
Yeah.
Everything in common law is simple. That's what you've got to remember.
That's right. And I've probably said this before, but I had to really laugh when a friend of mine who was also up on common law. He was, he was being asked to pay his credit card debts or something, or they're trying to get him for that. But he just wrote a letter to them back, just written in handwriting in capital letters. The person Joe Bloggs. The person, Mr. Joe Bloggs, is dead.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And I thought that was a brilliant use of legalese.
All right. Yeah. Well, last word to Patricia. Go ahead, Patricia.
Thank you. Here's a quick one. I watched a video the other night and I thought I'd recorded it on my phone, but I can't find it, so I have to do it again. One of the people who was speaking was giving an account of a court case that they were having to attend, and the judge, it was an American case, actually had said out loud and admitted when he questioned him later that he was working with the Alliance. So yes. Some of them are being retrained. So I just
was that in the Birmingham show?
No, it was. No,
I remember you mentioning this on Charlie's show or on the after party yesterday. I remember you saying something about that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Gary just raised his hand at the last minute here. Gary, go ahead.
It's only a quick one, guys. All it was is all you've got to do is ask a judge for his oath of office. If he cannot produce it, then he's impersonating a judge, and impersonating a judge is a very serious crime in this country.
Yes, it is. Very much so.
Sounds good. Yeah, sounds like a good thing.
All right. Thank you, Gary. But anyway, folks, thanks for joining us here this afternoon, this evening, or this morning, or whatever it is in your area. But we
early
look forward
morning in Australia.
Early morning in Australia. Yes, Stella, you're staying up very, very late, or getting up very, very early. I know
Getting up
that.
early.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
it's 10:15 at night here in Cologne.
Yep. All right. So good night, everyone. Have a blessed Sunday, and we'll see you on Thursday. Okay.
Right. That was
All
a
right.
fantastic show today, I think. Really good.
Oh yeah, really,
Nice talking
really
to
was.
Love
All
from
right.
Glastonbury.
All right. Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.
Great
Bye-bye.
talking to you.
Bye, Connie,
Peter,
wherever you are.
Billy.